The sterile air of the police station bites at my lungs. It smells of stale coffee and a quiet kind of desperation. My fingers, bone white, clutch a thin sheet of paper. It feels both fragile and impossibly heavy. Across the room, he stands, leaning against the counter, a picture of feigned casualness. His eyes, usually so adept at charm and deflection, dart nervously between me and the officer. The woman is next to him, chin tilted up, a defiant, confused tilt. And on her finger, catching the harsh fluorescent light, is the ring. My grandmother's ring. The one he gave her. The officer clears his throat, holding the ring in a small plastic bag. "Mr. Thompson," he says, his voice flat, official. "Can you confirm this item belongs to you?" He smiles, a wide, practiced smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Yes, officer. It's a gift I purchased," he glances at the woman. For her." The woman nods, a small, smug gesture. My breath catches. The lie hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. For a second, I falter. The weight of months of gaslighting, of doubt he carefully cultivated, threatens to crush me. But then I look at the ring again, catching that specific flicker of light off the main diamond, the tiny, almost invisible scratch I remember my grandmother pointing out once. It's real.
He did it.
And I remember why I'm standing here.
I remember the paper in my hand.
Actually, officer, I say, my voice surprisingly steady, cutting through his performance. That ring belongs to me. His smile vanishes. The woman stiffens. The officer looks from him to me, an eyebrow raised slightly. "Ma'am," the officer says patiently. "Mr. Thompson states he purchased it. Do you have proof of ownership?"
Proof.
He thinks I don't have proof. He thinks taking it from the box, denying he knew where it was, giving it to his mistress, was enough to sever its history, its ownership. He thinks I am still the naive fool who believed his every lie. "Yes, officer," I say, and I step forward. My hand extends, offering the document.
Ido.
His eyes fix on the paper. The color drains from his face. He recognizes the format, the jeweler's logo at the top. He knows exactly what it is. And as his gaze travels down, past the description of the ring, past the detailed measurements, past the estimated value, his eyes land on the date. And then the name at the bottom. The name of the owner for whom the appraisal was made. My name. Sarah Thompson. He crumples. It's not a dramatic collapse, not a Hollywood swoon. It's quieter, more terrifying. His knees buckle first, slow and uncontrolled. He pitches forward, reaching blindly for the counter that isn't there. A choked sound escapes him, something between a gasp and a sob. He hits the linoleum floor with a thud, lies there, eyes wide, staring up at the ceiling, his chest heaving. The woman screams. The officer is instantly crouched beside him, checking his pulse, calling for a medic. And I just stand there, holding the appraisal certificate, watching the man I married, the man who stole my history, my trust, my grandmother's ring, collapse because a piece of paper proved he wasn't just a liar, he was a thief. That paper. It feels warm now, a small, potent fire in my hand.
It feels like justice.
It feels like reclaiming. It feels like the end of a war he didn't even know I was fighting until I won. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. It started quietly, as most betrayals do. A whisper in the everyday noise. A feeling you can't quite name, like a draft in a room you thought was sealed tight. We had a good life. Or what I thought was a good life. Comfortable. Predictable. He traveled for work, sometimes sales. I had my job, my routine. Evenings were quiet, shared meals, the low hum of the television. Weekends were errands, maybe dinner with friends.
It was fine.
More than fine. It was the life I'd planned, the life I thought I was building with him. A solid, unremarkable foundation. The ring was the one piece of remarkable beauty in my life before the quiet started to crack. It wasn't just an engagement ring, though it became that too. It was my grandmother's, passed down through generations. A single, stunning diamond, set in platinum, with intricate, almost lace-like detailing around the band. It wasn't flashy, but it had weight.
History.
Every time I looked at it, I saw her hands, knotty with age, strong and kind, placing it in mine just weeks before she passed. "Keep it safe, Sarah Bug," she'd whispered, her voice like dry leaves. "It holds our story." It wasn't just gold and diamonds. It was my story. Our story. When he proposed, I already had the ring.
So we used that. It felt right.
Integrating his future with my past. He slipped it onto my finger, his smile wide and earnest. I believed him completely. I believed in us. The first tremor wasn't about the ring. It was about time. His travel got longer. The calls got shorter. He'd seem distant, preoccupied. When he was home, he was tired, irritable. He'd snap at little things he never noticed before. The way I stacked the dishes. The music I played. Small erosions of comfort, barely noticeable at first, like sand shifting underfoot. Then came the late nights. The excuses that felt thin, worn around the edges. Client meeting ran late. Traffic was a nightmare. His phone became an extension of his hand, face down on tables, buzzing with notifications he'd quickly dismiss. I tried to talk to him. Tried to ask what was wrong. Was it work? Was it me? He'd brush me off. Tell me I was imagining things. "You worry too much, Sarah." He'd pull me into a hug that felt staged, pat my back like comforting a child. "Everything's fine. Just tired." And the doubt would creep in. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was being unreasonable. Maybe I was just insecure. He was so convincing. The ring stayed on my finger. A constant, heavy presence. A reminder of promises made, of history shared. Sometimes, when things felt particularly disconnected, I'd twist it on my finger, feel the cool metal, the facets of the diamond, grounding myself in something real, something solid that spanned generations. Then one morning, I took it off to clean it. I kept it in a small, velvet-lined box on my dresser. A box that held nothing else.
Just the ring.
I cleaned it, watched it sparkle under the lamp, and placed it carefully back in its spot. The next day, I reached for it. Habit. Like reaching for my watch or my keys. The box was there. Open. Empty. My heart stopped. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I tore the room apart. Dresser drawers, nightstands, the floor under the rug. Nothing. Where could it be? I retraced my steps from the day before. Did I put it back?
Of course I did.
I always put it back. He came home that evening, tired as usual. I was a mess, tears streaking my face. "My ring," I choked out. "It's gone. Grandma's ring. It's gone." He didn't rush to comfort me. He didn't join the frantic search. He stood in the doorway, watching me. His face was unreadable for a second, then smoothed into a practiced look of concern.
"Gone?"
"How could it be gone?" "I don't know. I took it off yesterday, put it in the box, and now it's not there."
He sighed.
A weary, put-upon sigh. "Sarah, are you sure you put it in the box? Are you absolutely sure you didn't leave it in the bathroom? Or by the sink?" He was already doing it. Shifting the blame. Planting seeds of doubt. Making it my fault. We searched the house together, but his search was half-hearted. A quick glance under the bed, a perfunctory look in the bathroom. "Are you sure you didn't lose it when you were out?" he asked. "I haven't worn it out in days," I cried. "I took it off here, to clean it." He shrugged, his shoulders slumped. "Well, I don't know then. Maybe it'll turn up." Things do. Things do? This wasn't a misplaced car key. This was my grandmother's ring. A ring with immense sentimental and significant monetary value. His nonchalance was a new kind of pain, sharp and disorienting. It felt calculated. Over the next few days, the ring remained missing. He stopped mentioning it. If I brought it up, his face would close off. "Are you still harping on that?"
"It's just a thing, Sarah."
"We can get you another ring." "It's not just a thing. It was my grandmother's. It's irreplaceable." "Nothing is irreplaceable," he said, his voice hard. It wasn't just about the ring anymore.
It felt like he was talking about me.
about us. The suspicion began to bloom, dark and poisonous, in the pit of my stomach. His distance, the late nights, the phone, the missing ring, his strange indifference. It started to connect. I became a detective in my own life. I hated it. I hated the person I had to become. Slipping glances at his phone when he left it unattended, rarely. Checking bank statements, finding nothing suspicious. He was too smart for that. Noticing small things, a new shirt I didn't recognize, a scent on his collar that wasn't mine. It was the phone that finally broke me. One night, he fell asleep on the couch, the phone beside him. It buzzed. A notification on the lock screen. Not a text, but a calendar reminder. For dinner 2 nights ago. With a name, Jessica, and an address. A restaurant I'd never heard of in a part of town he supposedly never went to for work. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. It was unlocked. He was getting sloppy. I went to his calendar. The dinner reminder was still there. I scrolled back. More dinners. Coffee dates. Weekend plans. All with Jessica. Over months. Then I went to his photos. My breath hitched. Pictures of them together. Smiling. Laughing. In hotel rooms. On weekend trips. And then I saw it. A picture of her hand, holding a glass of wine. And on her ring finger, glinting under the restaurant lights, was the ring. My grandmother's ring. My world didn't just crack. It shattered. Into a million icy pieces. He hadn't lost it. He hadn't misplaced it. He had taken it. My history. My legacy. The symbol of my family's story. And given it to her. To his mistress. The cold fury that washed over me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't just sadness. It wasn't just hurt. It was a deep, burning violation. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had defiled something sacred. Something that wasn't even just mine, but belonged to generations. He woke up later, saw me sitting in the dark, the phone screen illuminating my face. His eyes widened. He knew. There was no point in yelling. No point in tears. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion, like scraping stones together. Jessica? He didn't deny it. The time for lies was over, or so I thought. He didn't apologize either. He just sat up, rubbing his face. Sarah? My ring. You gave her my grandmother's ring. He flinched. That hit a nerve. He could admit the affair, but the ring? That was a different level of depravity. Even for him. It's just a ring, he mumbled again, the same phrase, stripped of its previous false sympathy. It's not just a ring, it's everything. How could you? He finally looked at me, his expression hardening. The mask of the charming husband was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. Look, it's done. We'll figure things out. Figure things out? You stole from me. From my family. I didn't steal it, he snapped. It was in the house. I gave it as a gift. It was my property. A gift to me from my grandmother. And you are my wife, he said, as if that dissolved my individual ownership. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. What was his alone, hidden on his phone, in his secret life. What was mine, my history, my inheritance, he felt entitled to simply take and bestow upon another woman. Get out, I said, my voice shaking now, not with sadness, but with contained rage. Get out of my sight. He didn't leave that night. We slept in separate rooms, the house a silent, freezing battlefield. The air crackled with unspoken accusations and the weight of shattered trust. Over the next few days, everything intensified. He didn't apologize. He didn't show remorse. He became defensive, aggressive. He acted like I was the problem for discovering his secret. He started talking about divorce, but not in a way that suggested resolution. More like a threat, like he intended to come out of it unscathed, leaving me with nothing. He wanted the house. He wanted to split our savings disproportionately. He wanted to make my life as difficult as possible. He thought that by taking the ring, by giving away that piece of my history, he had somehow weakened me, made me less substantial, easier to dismiss. He thought I was just the emotional wife, easily hurt, easily discarded. But the cold fury hadn't subsided. It had settled deep in my bones, hardening into resolve. He underestimated me. He saw tears and hurt. He didn't see the steel forming underneath. He thought he held all the cards because he had the secrets, the lies, the other woman. He didn't realize I had history. I had legal proof. The ring hadn't been officially appraised for insurance purposes since my grandmother received it decades ago. But I remembered the jeweler. A small, old-fashioned place downtown. The family who owned it had been in the business for generations, known my grandmother. That was my midpoint shift. The moment I stopped reacting to his moves and started planning my own. He thought he'd taken my most valuable possession, physical and emotional. But he hadn't taken the knowledge of where it came from. He hadn't taken the paper trail, however faint, that linked it to my family. I called the jeweler. Mr. Henderson. His father had done the original work on the ring, resized it for my grandmother years ago. I explained the situation, my voice carefully neutral. The missing ring. The need for an appraisal certificate for insurance, just in case. He was kind. He remembered the ring vaguely. Remembered my grandmother. I sent him photos I had, descriptions, the tiny scratch. I dug through old family papers until I found the original receipt from the 1940s, documenting its purchase by my great-grandfather for my great-grandmother. Mr. Henderson did his research. He confirmed the details from the photos and the old receipt. He authenticated its provenance based on my description and the family history I provided. He calculated the current market value. It was significant. He drew up a formal appraisal certificate. In my name, Sarah Thompson, documenting that this specific ring, with its unique characteristics, was appraised for me. That I was the one who came to him, claiming ownership and history. Holding that certificate for the first time felt like holding a shield or a weapon. It wasn't just paper. It was validation. It was proof that the ring was mine, regardless of whose finger it currently sat on, regardless of his lies. It was a legal anchor tethering that precious object to me, not him, not her. He escalated his threats. He started draining joint accounts, moving money around. He told mutual friends sob stories about my supposed instability, my unreasonable accusations. He was trying to isolate me, to make me look crazy when I finally told people what he'd done. He grew bolder. He brought Jessica to places we used to go. He flaunted the affair, thinking he was breaking me, making me weaker. Every sighting, every careless mention by a friend, felt like a punch to the gut. And the thought of her wearing that ring, it was a physical ache. I knew I couldn't let him get away with it. Not the cheating, which was bad enough.
But the theft.
The desecration of my grandmother's legacy. He had to face consequences, not just for the affair, but for the calculated cruelty of taking something so deeply personal and giving it to his mistress as a trophy. All seemed lost in the sense of my marriage, the life I thought I had. He had systematically dismantled it, brick by brick. He had stolen from me, lied to me, humiliated me. My friends were confused, some taking a side, believing his narrative of my unreasonable jealousy. I felt adrift, alone in a sea of his deceit. But I had the certificate. The paper felt stronger than steel. It wasn't emotional proof, it was factual proof. It was irrefutable. The deepening crisis was the realization that confronting him emotionally was useless. He had no empathy left for me. He only understood power, control, winning. I had to hit him where it hurt, his carefully constructed reality. I had to use the law. The turning point was the decision to call the police. It felt extreme. It felt terrifying. This wasn't just about a stolen piece of jewelry. It was about theft of a value far exceeding its market price. It was about grand larceny of the heart, the soul, the past. But the law saw a valuable item taken without consent from its rightful owner. I gathered everything. The appraisal certificate, the old receipt, photos of the ring from before it was taken, showing it on my finger. I found the photo on his phone again, the one with Jessica wearing it. I took a screenshot. More proof. I called the non-emergency line. My voice trembled as I explained. A valuable piece of inherited jewelry, recently discovered missing. I had reason to believe it had been taken by my husband and was in the possession of someone else. I had proof of ownership. They were skeptical at first. Domestic dispute? Marital property? But when I mentioned the specific value from the appraisal and the nature of the item as a distinct, documented inheritance, they shifted. Theft is theft, regardless of marital status, especially when the item's provenance and ownership prior to the dispute could be established. They agreed to send an officer. I knew where Jessica lived. He wasn't even hiding it anymore. I gave the police the address. The waiting was agonizing. Every minute stretched into an hour. My hands were shaking. What if it went wrong? What if he somehow talked his way out of it? What if she had taken it off? Then the call. The officer confirmed they were on site. Both my husband and the woman were present, and they had located the ring. Could I come down to the station to identify it and provide documentation? The station. That's where we started. The sterile air, the cold marble floor, the heavy weight of the appraisal in my hand. Stepping into that room, seeing him standing there, so confident, so ready with his lies, my fear dissolved. Only the cold resolve remained. He underestimated me one last time. He said he bought it. A gift. He looked at the officer, a reasonable man, a man who had simply purchased a gift. He looked at me, dismissing me as a crazy, jealous wife. And I handed the officer the appraisal certificate. The officer read it. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. He looked at the date, looked at the name, looked at the value. He looked at my husband. And my husband looked at it, and the truth, the undeniable, documented truth, slammed into him with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just a piece of paper proving I owned the ring. It was proof that I had been quietly preparing, gathering evidence, while he was busy playing games. It was proof that I wasn't the weak, emotional woman he thought he could crush. I was methodical. I was prepared. I had built an unbreakable case. He hadn't just stolen a ring. He had committed documented theft of an item legally proved to be mine. His confidence, his lies, his carefully constructed facade of injured innocence, it all crumbled. The officer's expression shifted, hardening. The word, theft, hung unspoken in the air. The consequences, legal and financial and social, suddenly became terrifyingly real to him. He saw his future, prison, lawsuits, ruin, flash before his eyes, triggered by a piece of paper with my name on it. And he collapsed. The police took statements. They took the ring into evidence, assuring me it would be returned to me as the rightful owner once the process was complete. He was escorted out, not in handcuffs, not yet, but shaken, his face pale and drawn. The woman, Jessica, stared at me, her eyes full of a mixture of hatred and dawning fear. She hadn't just accepted a gift, she had potentially accepted stolen property. Walking out of the police station, the air outside felt different. Lighter, somehow. The heavy weight wasn't gone, but it had shifted. The ring wasn't on my finger, but I knew where it was. Safe. And it was mine.
Legali, undeniably mine.
The ride home was quiet. Empty. The vindication was cold, sharp, almost bitter. I had won. But what had I won? The end of my marriage. The loss of the man I thought I knew, replaced by this stranger, this thief, this cheat. The recovery of a ring that now carried not only the weight of generations, but the stain of his betrayal. In the days that followed, the legal process began. The divorce moved quickly, fueled by the undeniable evidence of his actions. He tried to fight, to deny, but the appraisal certificate, backed by the jeweler's testimony and the old family receipt, was insurmountable. He eventually agreed to my terms, desperate to avoid criminal charges. I got the ring back. Holding it again was strange. It felt heavier, colder. The diamond still caught the light, but the light felt different now. It wasn't just a symbol of family history. It was a symbol of resilience, of survival, of not being broken. I wear it sometimes. Not on my left hand anymore. Maybe on a chain, close to my heart. or on my right hand a statement of independence. It's still my grandmother's ring. But now it's also the ring that brought a cheating husband to his knees. The ring that proved I was stronger, smarter, and more prepared than he ever imagined. The scar tissue is still there, raw and tender beneath the surface. The betrayal cuts deep. The loss of the future I thought I had is a quiet, constant ache. But the fear is gone. The doubt he tried to instill is gone. And in its place is a quiet certainty. He took many things. He tried to take everything. But he didn't take my story. He didn't take my strength. And he couldn't take my grandmother's ring. It remains, shining fiercely, a beacon in the aftermath of the storm. A reminder that some things, some legacies, some people are unbreakable. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.